Welcome to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a truly remarkable novel, one that effortlessly weaves together two parallel stories across centuries. Elif Shafak's The 40 Rules of Love. Our mission here is, well, to unpack its intricate narrative, uncover some surprising insights, and really explore the timeless wisdom embedded within its pages. We want to give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about this captivating work.
It really is a novel that, like you said, is hard to pin down. Shafak does this masterful job blending historical narrative with contemporary fiction. And she uses it to explore these incredibly profound spiritual themes. It's not just a story, you know. It's more like an experience that resonates across different times and cultures. It really showcases her unique voice.
Absolutely. So let's unpack this. Maybe we can start in modern-day Northampton, Massachusetts, 2008. That's where we meet Ella Rubenstein. Now, on the surface, she lives what seems like a picture-perfect life. Nice Victorian house, husband David, 3 kids.
Right, they've got the whole package. Security, retirement plans, multiple properties. They built their marriage around this shared vision of an ideal life. And they've pretty much ticked all the boxes.
But what's the immediate sense we get about, the reality under that polished surface?
Well, what's fascinating is how quickly that veneer of perfection gets peeled back. This ideal life has actually become incredibly stagnant. Those shared meals are less frequent. And underneath all the routine, there's this growing void, especially within Ella's marriage. It's less fulfillment and more quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that something's missing, even if she hasn't quite named it yet.
And that unspoken emptiness, it really comes to a head, doesn't it? The novel describes love arriving for Ella as suddenly and briskly as if a stone had been hurled from out of nowhere into the tranquil pond of her life.
Wow.
This disruption happens during this really awkward family lunch. Her daughter, Jeanette, announces she wants to marry Scott.
And David, Ella's husband, immediately disapproves. The main reason. Scott isn't Jewish.
Yeah, and Ella steps in, but her intervention is, well, unexpected. She secretly calls Scott and asks him to call off the marriage, which naturally creates this painful rift with Jeanette.
And this family conflict, even though it's centered on Jeanette, it becomes the immediate catalyst. It forces that underlying marital void between Ella and David right out into the open. David actually confronts Ella, asking point blank if she ever truly loved him.
I mean, after 20 years of marriage, that's a devastating question. It really exposes the core emptiness she's been feeling.
It's a truly pivotal moment. But then, almost right away, a new path, maybe a new connection, starts to emerge. Ella's just started as an assistant at a literary agency, and she gets her very first assignment, read a manuscript called Sweet Blasphemy. It's by this unknown European author, A.Z. Zahara, and she needs to write an extensive report. And despite her initial lack of interest, I think her boss's assistant was even pressuring her to hurry up the book, just completely captivates her. She gets this strong feeling like this was going to be not just any book, but the book that changed her life. That's a pretty powerful intuition.
It really is. And this is where Shafak starts weaving the two narratives together, connecting past and present so skillfully.
Yeah, the manuscript itself opens with this really compelling premise. It suggests that despite the centuries between them, the 21st century and the 13th century are actually remarkably similar. Both eras, it says, are marked by these unprecedented religious clashes, cultural misunderstandings, and this general sense of insecurity and fear of the other. And the book argues that in times like these, the need for love is actually greater than ever, which, immediately sets the stage for the parallels we're about to explore.
And as Ella reads, she becomes completely intrigued by one character in particular, Shams of Tabriz. She even jokes to herself, something like, it could be nice to have someone like him around. Never a dull day with a guy like that.
That curiosity leads her to Google the author, A.Z. Zahara. And she finds his personal blog, An Eggshell Named Life. That's how she learns his first name is Aziz, that he's a Sufi, and he's currently traveling in Guatemala.
This discovery is a real turning point, isn't it? She actually initiates an email correspondence with Aziz. At first, she's just pouring out her personal problems, like the situation with her daughter's marriage. She feels this strange sense of timing about reading his book, almost like it was meant for her right then.
Exactly. And their exchanges quickly deepen. Ella finds herself expressing feelings about, deeper things, life, death, love, stuff she wasn't used to discussing, especially not with a complete stranger.
It's a total shift. She sees Aziz as this gushing waterfall, just full of idealism and passion. It's such a stark contrast to her own life. Organized, cautious, liberal, non-practicing Jewish.
Right. And Aziz, who's a convert to Islam, embraces this spirituality and connection that goes beyond labels. He really challenges her established views on religion. He introduces her to the Sufi concept of the fifth element, the void, which isn't emptiness, he explains, but more like the limitless space beyond our rational minds, recognizing the limits of reason.
And he emphasizes that spirituality isn't just some kind of add-on, right? It's essential.
Precisely. And Aziz also explains the mystic significance of the number 40, especially as Ella's approaching her 40th birthday. He tells her it symbolizes spiritual awakening, new missions, moving up to higher levels. And he encourages her, quite directly, to open her heart to love.
That spiritual guidance, it clearly resonates deeply with her. It gives her a whole new perspective on her own life stagnation.
And it really does transform her. Her correspondence with Aziz gives her this secret color, a bright, tantalizing red. She starts embracing secrets, even lies, feeling this momentous change inside.
And paradoxically, as she learns from Aziz's approach to life, adopting this calmer, more composed way of being, her relationship with her kids actually improves.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. This internal shift culminates in a really bold decision. She travels to Boston to meet Aziz. This choice definitively marks her leaving that stagnant life behind. There's definitely internal conflict about leaving David and the family, but the pull towards Aziz is just too strong.
Their meeting in Boston. It's described with such intimate detail. Aziz's casual look, his Scottish brogue, the deep conversation they have. He gives her a tapestry and a necklace with a whirling dervish, these tangible symbols of the connection they formed.
But the moment takes a really serious turn when Aziz reveals his encounter with the letter I, which is his way of talking about the final stage of his life. He tells her he's terminally ill with malignant melanoma. He only has a few years left. And this is why he wrote the book. He found himself rethinking their meanings again and not wanting to die.
Wow. So despite this devastating news, Ella chooses to embrace the present moment with him. She understands, as the book says, that if there was anything worse in the eyes of society than a woman abandoning her husband for another man, it was a woman abandoning her future for the present moment. That's a really radical choice for her.
Absolutely. And what follows is this intense year of living and traveling with Aziz until his health visibly deteriorates. Ella's with him in a hospital in Konya, Turkey, when he passes away.
And his funeral. It's portrayed as this wildly unusual celebration. A local even describes it as the craziest funeral Konya had ever witnessed, except for the funeral of Malana centuries ago.
Yeah, there's music, dancing, even pan de los muertos, that traditional Mexican bread for the Day of the Dead and rose petals. It really highlights the theme of love transcending cultural boundaries, even in death. It's quite something.
It is a striking scene. The novel ends with Ella talking to Jeanette, her daughter, who asks if she's coming home. Ella's future is left kind of uncertain, but it's clear she's open to new possibilities now. She's embracing what the book calls rule number 40, which we should definitely circle back to.
We should. But first, let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the 13th century to understand the other equally profound parallel story in this book.
Right. The 13th century, much like the 21st, the book depicts it as this really tumultuous period. Unprecedented religious clashes, cultural misunderstandings, and a general sense of insecurity and fear of the other. Sound familiar?
Depressingly so. And in Konya, during this time, we meet Jalal ad-Din Rumi, known as Maulana. He's this highly distinguished Islamic scholar, revered by thousands, a pillar of the establishment, really.
But then, in 1244, Rumi meets Shams of Tabriz, a wandering dervish, completely unconventional, and this encounter, the book says, altered both their lives. It profoundly transforms Rumi from that mainstream cleric into the passionate poet, the mystic, the advocate of universal spirituality that we know today.
Exactly. And it initiates the ecstatic dance of the whirling dervishes. This transformation is really rooted in Shams's emphasis on inner-oriented jihad, the struggle against your own ego, the nafs, rather than outer-oriented jihad, which was often interpreted as, war against infidels.
Shams's approach was definitely radical. To illustrate this, the historical narrative introduces this anonymous professional killer known as Jackalhead. He's cold, calculating.
And there's this powerful scene in a tavern. Shams shows up, offering to interpret dreams for food. The innkeeper is this hardened man, bitter because he lost his pregnant wife to Mongol riders. It turned him into a wolf, he says, believing violence wasn't my element, but it is now.
This scene just perfectly showcases Shams's unique wisdom. He doesn't interpret a dream, he reads the innkeeper's palm, revealing these specific unknown details about his wife's death, how she died instantly from a wooden plank, that she didn't suffer.
And he tells the innkeeper his wife and son are traveling in infinity, as free as a speck of light. It's incredibly comforting, but also challenging.
Right, because Shams's core teaching to him is profound. You can become a lamb again, because you still have it in you. He directly challenges the innkeeper's idea that his violence is justice.
He even points out, the more you talked about love, the more they hated you, suggesting that outward anger often just masks deeper pain and fear.
Shams himself, we learn, received visions and heard voices since he was a boy. He preferred the company of outcasts, expatriates, and exiles over scholars, found them more authentic maybe.
Seems like it. He describes this vision where God basically tells him to hand over his wisdom to the right person because he's just bursting with it. This leads him to compile the basic principles of the itinerant mystics of Islam, which become known as the 40 rules of the religion of love. And he says these rules can only be attained through love itself.
And one of those fundamental rules is the path to the truth is a labor of the heart, not of the head. That's a recurring theme, isn't it?
Absolutely central. So Shams eventually arrives in Baghdad, meets Baba Zaman, the master of a dervish lodge. And Baba Zaman recognizes that Shams' destiny is to meet Rumi.
But the journey gets delayed, right? Baba Zaman keeps putting it off through winter, spring, autumn. Apparently he'd grown fond of Shams and was struggling with sending him on what he knew would be a dangerous journey.
Yeah, it shows the human side, even of a spiritual master. But ultimately, Shams is chosen because he's the only one who perseveres through all these trials. And finally, he's given Rumi's name, which the book says melted on his tongue with the sweetness of candy.
So Shams enters Konya, a city he sees as having two extremes, either pure love or pure hatred. He finds this incompleteness in everyone, viewing them as unfinished masterworks.
And he deliberately seeks out the underbelly of society, not the fancy scholars. He meets people like Hassan the beggar, a leper, totally ostracized. Shams treats him with incredible respect, reminds him, you bear God within you.
And then there's that famous scene where he intervenes when a prostitute, Desert Rose, is about to be lynched in the mosque. He confronts the mob's hypocrisy head on,
asking them, do you really despise this woman, or do you in fact desire her? He tells them, there is no such thing as them, just as there is no I. Everything and everyone in this universe is interconnected. We are all one. Just radical interconnectedness.
These interactions really highlight his core philosophy. Divinity, connection, it's everywhere, especially among those rejected by society.
Definitely. So after these encounters, Shams and Rumi cloister themselves in Rumi's library for 40 days, just intense conversations.
And this transformation in Rumi causes huge concern in his family. His son, Aladdin, becomes openly hostile. He fears Shams as some kind of assassin, worries his father's reputation is just like ice melting under the sun.
And Kara, Rumi's second wife, feels excluded, resentful. That old wound from being kept away from Rumi's books kind of reopens.
During this time, Shams does something truly radical. He symbolically burns Rumi's precious books.
Yeah, signifying that critical shift from head knowledge to heart knowledge, from a preaching mind to a chanting heart, as the book puts it. He encourages Rumi to become the voice of love through poetry, not just sermons.
This is also where the Sima, the whirling dervish dance, gets introduced. Shams and Rumi demonstrate it, and Shams famously defies the Sultan who offers payment,
declaring, we don't dance for money. The Sima is a spiritual dance performed for love and love alone, making a clear statement about its purpose.
This new way of being definitely causes a stir, and eventually Shams leaves Rumi for a time, partly because of Aladdin's scheming.
Right, and this absence causes Rumi immense pain. But it's that pain that leads him to express himself through poetry, particularly the Mathnawi. He becomes, as the book says, only a vehicle for letters. His suffering fuels his art.
It's like Aziz's impending death for Ella. This absence becomes the crucible for Rumi's deepest transformation.
Exactly. And woven throughout all these historical events are Shams' 40 rules of love, offering these profound insights. We should touch on a few key ones.
Okay, like the distinction between intellect and love.
Yeah, that's crucial. Intellect ties people in knots and risks nothing, but love dissolves all tangles and risks everything. And then treasures are hidden among ruins. A broken heart hides treasures. It speaks to the necessity of vulnerability, taking risks in love. And it hints that our deepest growth often comes from our hardest experiences.
There's also that powerful rule about the limits of language itself.
Right. Most of the problems of the world stem from linguistic mistakes and simple misunderstandings. Don't ever take words at face value. When you step into the zone of love, language as we know it becomes obsolete. That which cannot be put into words can only be grasped through silence.
That's not just a spiritual platitude, is it? It's a real challenge to our logic-driven world, suggesting understanding comes from intuition, empathy, experience, not just analysis.
Totally. And Shams also teaches about God being everywhere. You can study God through everything and everyone. God is not confined in a mosque, synagogue, or church. But if you are still in need of knowing where exactly his abode is, there's only one place to look for him: in the heart of a true lover.
He also explains the 7 stages of nafs, the ego, right? That journey from our base instincts towards a purified self through spiritual growth.
Yeah, it outlines this lifelong journey of inner work, of purification.
Now, the story takes a really tragic turn with Kimya, Rumi's adopted daughter.
Ah, yes, Kimya. She falls deeply in love with Shams, and they actually marry, with Rumi's blessing. But Shams, he doesn't physically reciprocate her love.
In her desperation, she seeks help from Desert Rose, the former prostitute, trying to figure out how to seduce Shams. Desert Rose wisely warns her against it.
But Kimya tries anyway. Her attempt fails, Shams rejects her, and she falls ill from heartbreak. Eventually she dies. It's incredibly poignant.
But even in her delirium, the book says she experiences the deepest reading of the Quran as a drop in infinity. She finds pure awareness, understands God's compassion, and sees this perfect system of love.
It's heartbreaking, but it highlights that even unrequited love and immense suffering can lead to profound spiritual insight. Growth through pain again.
Ultimately, though, Shams' time runs out. The killer, Jackalhead, is hired to kill him. Rumi's son, Aladdin, and his allies plot against Shams, spreading these damaging rumors.
The killer witnesses the murder, orchestrated by Baybars and others, near the well at Rumi's house.
And Rumi discovers Shams's body. His agonizing scream marks the end of Shams' physical life, but really the true beginning of Rumi's incredible poetic outpouring.
That profound grief transforms Rumi into the sultan of language. He keeps developing the Sima dance, always emphasizing its spiritual purpose, and he dictates the monumental Mathnawi, with Sam as his scribe.
His final reflections really highlight that theme of change and permanence. For every Sufi who dies, another is born somewhere. Our religion is the religion of love, and we are all connected in a chain of hearts.
It's beautiful. So if we connect these two incredible narratives, Ella's modern journey and Rumi's 13th century one, the parallels are just striking.
Absolutely. Both are transformed by a Shams figure, Aziz for Ella, Shams himself for Rumi, someone who disrupts their comfortable lives and pushes them towards this deeper, much more challenging understanding of love and self.
And that core concept of sweet blasphemy runs so powerfully through both stories. It's about questioning conventional wisdom, societal norms, even rigid religious interpretations to find a more authentic, heart-led spirituality.
We see it in Shams' acceptance of outcasts, the shepherd's prayer in Aziz's book, and definitely in Ella's courageous break from her expected life. What seems blasphemous to some is the path to truth for others.
And then there's the void, the fifth element, embracing the unpredictable, the uncontrollable divine, learning to surrender. Aziz accepting his terminal illness, Shams being willing to be God's unfiltered instrument. Those are powerful examples of that surrender.
And the overarching theme, of course, is love as the ultimate guide. The emphasis is always on the heart over the head, love as purification, and that profound interconnectedness of everyone through that invisible web of stories.
Yeah, that reminder that we're all part of a larger whole. Compassion is key.
And maybe one of the most impactful insights is that transformation often comes through hardship. That idea that for a new self to be born, hardship is necessary.
And love can only be perfected in pain. That applies so directly to both Ella's crises and Rumi's grief. Our deepest growth often springs from our toughest moments.
Which brings us back to rule number 40, the final rule. It feels like the novel's ultimate message.
It really does. A life without love is of no account. Don't ask yourself what kind of love you should seek, spiritual or material, divine or mundane, Eastern or Western. Divisions only lead to more divisions. Love has no labels, no definitions. It is what it is, pure and simple.
Wow. It just encapsulates that universal call to embrace love in all its forms. It's the guiding principle for Ella, for Rumi, and maybe for all of us.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the 40 rules of love really shows that true transformation often comes from those unexpected encounters, and from being willing to embrace the sweet blasphemy of the heart over the rigidity of the mind.
Elif Shafak masterfully shows us how that timeless pursuit of love, self-discovery, and spiritual awakening really does transcend centuries and cultures.
Proving that, as Rumi reflected, for every Shams of Tabriz who has passed away, there will emerge a new one in a different age under a different name. The search continues.
So, maybe something to think about is, what sweet blasphemy in your own life might lead you to a deeper understanding of love and self? If this deep dive has piqued your curiosity, we definitely recommend you grab a copy of The 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. You can find a link in our description.
It's truly a worthwhile read.
And don't forget to subscribe to Books and Bytes for more profound literary journeys.